I'd ask a question, and then I would attack preemptively, and I would hit them as hard as I could. I would hit them so hard they go back in time, and when they wake up, the clothes are out of fashion. That's how hard I would want to hit them. So I always remember John Anderson saying to me, who I worked with on the doors, was my mentor. He said, if people put you in a position where you have no choice and you have to hit them, then you hit them with everything you've got. And that's what I would do on a physical game. But that's a very base language, though, Ted. That's a language most people speak at. But as self-defense instructors and as kind of instructors in life, we need to be thinking even bigger than that. Because I'm aware that when people come to me, they don't really come for self-defense against muggers. They come for self-defense against the self, against their addictions, against their kind of vices, self-defense against their own senses. They come for self-sovereignty. They might think they want to learn to punch hard and defend themselves, but they're coming to me because they want to access a greater purpose, something bigger. So at the top end, I teach people that the real self-defense is self-defense against the self, and then we start looking at the basic self-sovereignty, like control of the palate, because people are killing themselves every single day with wrong eating, with wrong thinking, with wrong talking, with wrong perceptions. We are a bigger enemy to ourselves than any guy on the street. That's absolute and that's unequivocal. That's what I found. And then I start teaching them about how what they emotively and consistently think about, they will create in the outside world.
So, whatever they're doing that's working, okay, we can improve that later, but let's look at what you're no good at and let's prop you up and shore you up in those areas. So I do the same thing with BJJ. Mm-hmm. I say, okay, let's have a look at your game. Let's see what you're doing. Wow, show me everything you know via wrestling. Gee, it seems that you're quite strong in side control. You've got options. You're clear on what to do there. You're clear on what to do on the mount. But when I get you inside back control, you seem to be scratching your head for a couple of seconds. You can't work out what to do. We need to fix that. We need to put something there. Yep. So people should run their own diagnostics by, especially if they wanted to go beyond blue belt, they should be writing down every single position they can think of and asking themselves this simple question. Do they have one move that's very, very clear to them for every single position they can get into? And they should have one attack. They should have an attack for when they're in that position. They should have a transition for when they're losing that position. In other words, they're losing the mount. Where are they going to as they're losing the mount? Or are they in denial about it? They should say, this guy's escaping. Where am I transitioning to? They should be clear on that. And they should be clear on the escape that they're using if they're the bunny, if they're the one that's underneath in the mount. Yep.
Perfect.
So they run that little diagnostics. What's their attack? What's their transition? And what's their escape? Those three things for every single position.
A top game, a half guard game, and a rubber guard game. Those are the three kind of basics in there. And then in there you need to know some sweeps, some counters, and some submissions. The 10th Planet game is really, really focused on attacking, especially from the guard and the rubber guard. It's a highly aggressive system, so you're never just holding on and just hoping that the person will gas out. You're always attacking and always trying to keep them moving so you can get the submission on them.
Okay, cool. And what type of mental attributes do you think help a BJJ student proficiency?
I think the mental attributes that you need to come into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or grappling in particular would be, you need to have consistency, you need to have dedication, and you need to have an open mind. As I would say, an open mind is really, really important because you're going to be exposed to things which don't look like they work, and that often happens when a new student comes in and says, that submission doesn't look like it hurts, or that won't work, and then they're put into it and they realize that what looks like it shouldn't work does actually work in reality. So having that open mind is really important. And not to discount some of the submissions you see. The 10th Planet system gets that a lot, where people say, hey, the rubber guard doesn't work, or it's going to hurt your knees, or you'll never get a twister. And the list goes on and on and on.
Yeah, the effects of the adrenal response are so important in dealing with a real life situation. What we've done is we've brain mapped what actually happens when we get adrenalized. Now, typically it's pretty much focused around the breath. When people get into a stressful situation, the number one tendency is to either hold their breath completely or to get very shallow, rapid breathing, what that does is it escalates the negative effects of adrenaline, the tunnel vision, the auditory exclusion, the loss of fine motor control, the tachypsyche, all that stuff gets escalated when we shorten up our breath. So a big part of controlling the adrenaline is with breathing. Then it's also through the training. The people do respond the way that they were trained, and most people don't train within the adrenal stress response. And through our training, it's very, very simple. We just put people through a series of stress inoculations so that it's not about making that adrenal stress go away, but it's about how to control it in the situation instead of it controlling you.
Okay, good. And what sort of physical training and preparation do we need to do to prepare ourselves for self-defense?
Physical conditioning is important. I don't think it's as important as many people make it out to be, because we get people in our courses who are in dreadful physical fitness shape, and yet if they can focus their adrenaline, they are a force to be reckoned with. That said, certainly physical conditioning is good. I find that the best way to, or let me rephrase it, we have trained people in a consistent manner where they just make a practice out of doing the small amount of techniques that we do.
People train too hard, and what I mean by that is they go too fast when they're rolling, so fast that they don't feel what the other person is doing. Mm-hmm. So it's like, I'm trying to implement my game plan, I'm trying to do this, I'm trying to do that, when it really should be this unspoken dialogue of pressure and angles and feeling what the other person is doing so you can take advantage of that. Okay? And yeah, it's not all purely defensive. Of course, you're going to be on the attack too. But when they release their pressure, you fill that void, you fill that gap with your attack. Now, if you are training really hard, really hard, so that your hands, you can barely open your hands after a hard gi session, and you will end up with sprains, nicks, bruises, that unintentional elbow, that's a gurujitsu. That's not the real stuff. And unfortunately, I feel that a lot of guys, and they watch the UFC, they see a couple techniques on YouTube, and they're like, yeah, let's go for it. And then they go for it with everything. And so many sports require, maximum impact, maximum effort, full power. But jiu-jitsu is really the great undoing. You have to let go of all of that so that you can be sensitive to what that person is doing, so you can use their energy in the most efficient way possible.